compelling detective story, a cloak and dagger action, and a romantic drama, all these stories were taken from real life. The history of Kazakhstan is inseparable from the world history. Reflections on history, our version.
Ataman Annenkov's treasure. Partisans lowered a wooden box into a hole and filled it up with earth. Then they leveled the surface to make the place of the burial imperceptible. They heard shots, and the staff captain put another cross on the map. Was Ataman Annenkov's treasure real or imaginary? These are the Ataman's dugouts. I'm showing you some secret documents. It is possible to write a separate adventure and detective story saying how Maxim Ivlev, a writer from St. Petersburg, got hold of this unique map. In short, Ataman Annenkov's comrade-in-arms descendants sent it from Europe. I studied this map thoroughly, paying attention to every mark on it. Besides, if you enlarge it here, you can notice it. Officer Sukharyov and Bukharyov, his surname is illegible, drew it in detail. You can see some lines here, artillery was here, and you can see everything in detail. An artillery warehouse was buried here, and you can see and understand everything. This map led to the expedition launched in 2011. The expedition followed in Ataman Annenkov's footsteps. When leaving, he abandoned all his robbed riches in a cave. Annenkov didn't have and couldn't have had any gold. He stole the standard and brought it together with other relics to Kazakhstan. Chapter 1. Leaving for Salkin summits. Officer Boris Annenkov was a Decembrist attendant. He was among the White Movement's leaders. Before the revolution, he was in the services in Jarkent and later in Kokshetau. He was a mountaineer who conquered a few peaks of the Djungar Alatau, a gymnast, and he could practice hypnosis. He spoke a few foreign languages, including Kazakh. He was notable for his willfulness and intentionally shocking behavior. A civil war sets talented, clever and enlightened people against those who are just as talented, clever and enlightened as they are. The White Movement collapsed in Semirechye in the spring of 1920. Their numbers were a bit more than 4,000, and the majority of them were Cossacks and members of the Alash Orda divisions. The remaining people of Annenkov's army left for China through Selki Pass. Previously, the Kyrgyz rarely passed here, and now a string of convoys is pushing through the snow. It is a partisans' convoy. They only have cartridges, shells, flour, and little else. It is a difficult way. They have to pull 200 pounds of heavy cannons up the rock surface. Although it's surprising, he managed to take a few cannons through Selki Pass. I don't remember the exact amount, but I have some documents containing this information. He even pulled 2 cars, one of which he gave to the governor of the Ili district in Xinjiang as a gift. Since the Chinese did not allow them to pass with all their armaments, they hid a part of them allegedly together with the gold. There are a lot of stories connected with Canton Karagay district. There are some places where treasures are hidden. Many people went there to unearth these treasures. A legend has it that a treasure was hidden in a cave, and afterwards the cave entrance was blown up. Trench fortifications still remain in Berel village, where the White Army defended themselves against the Red Army. When they were surrounded, they hid their treasures in these mountains because they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to pass through the encirclement.
В этих горах свои сокровища, потому что боялись, что они не смогут пройти сквозь этих цепочку.
According to another legend, the treasures were hidden somewhere in the Djungar Alatau, not far away from the border. These treasures did not contain any gold. Chapter 2. Yermak's Standard. In order to win the Cossacks over, the detachment attacked Omsk Cathedral, where we managed to steal Yermak's standard. Being afraid of retaliation, I took my detachment to the city of Kokshetau and then to the Kyrgyz steppe. There are various pieces of information. Some people say it was near Kokshetau, while others think it was in different places. In 1918, the Soviet of Deputies came to power in Omsk. Rumors had it that the Bolsheviks would eliminate the church and all religious items would be burnt. Yermak's standard was in this cathedral. Now we can say that it was in a glass case. It was kept there as an icon with a candlestick in front of it, and a candle could be put there. One group was firing in the street and the other burst into the cathedral. Two of Annenkov's people suffered and the glass of the case where the candle was kept was broken. The Red Army lost 4 people and 3 people were wounded. Annenkov's people came under fire but managed to break through towards the Irtish. A contemporary wrote, Annenkov, standing in his sleigh and holding the Empress standard in his hand, rushed on the ice covering the Irtish and easily escaped from his pursuers. It's interesting that after the city was under Kolchak's control, the Ataman did not hurry to give back either the standards or other relics. Then, in 1919, on the military department's orders, he returned the standard. However, because it was taken from one place to another, its condition was very poor and it fell into pieces. The standard was restored. Actually, it was simply sewn together and even a photo of it was taken. Later, the Red Army entered the city, and it was not known what happened to the standard after that. What happened after remains unknown. There was an order to remove valuables from St. Nicholas's Cathedral, but it turned out that Yermak's standard had completely disappeared. According to one version, Annenkov stole the relic again, or gave an order to do so. They say that when withdrawing, they buried the standard together with treasures and arms. Ucharal was the last seat of the Ataman. They say that before leaving, he ordered to drink trenches in the mountain and left his painting to the descendants. It was filled up with large stones. Annenkov was written there from then on. During the Soviet period, they were made to write Lenin instead of his surname. Soldiers of the Kazakh Alash Orda detachment wrote it. They said the Alash members did it. According to a legend, the writing showed the place where the treasures had been buried. However, we can only guess how they could do that. If you read it backwards, you'll have OKNI. So there are 2 parts. It means that the gold is hidden somewhere on one mountain and that the arms are on the other. The arms have disappeared somewhere too, and it's unknown where they are. What happened afterwards is like Treasure Island. They say that an officer decided to take the treasures unlawfully, but was caught red-handed. A skeleton of a killed officer was found. He'd been going to draw his saber when a bullet hit him in his head. Turncoats told me that pits had been dug in crevices and arms had been buried there. Afterwards, those who buried the arms were taken away and shot. In this way, it was kept a secret. Far away, we can see the Jungar Gate. There is the Jungar Alatau Range on one side and the Jalana Shakol Lake on the other. The expedition was held in 2011. Annenkov's people left following this road towards Selki Pass. According to legends, another cache was hidden somewhere in that place. He buried a piece of gold, which was like a horse's head, somewhere in front of the pass. They searched a few times again, but did not find anything. If we believe all the legends, the Ataman's treasures were hidden in different places, and there were at least 10 of them. We have a little lake somewhere in the mountains, and they went by this lake. He hid it in that area. Could Boris Annenkov really have had treasure? Chapter 3. The Ataman's Gold. The thought that I had a lot of treasures disturbed the Chinese. They thought that arresting me would make me give the imaginary treasures back to them. The Chinese authorities knew that many leaders of the White Movement had taken their treasure abroad. In the early 1920s, the divided units of the White Guard settled in Xinjiang. However, after the Chinese allowed the White Guard members to stay there, they realized that they'd made a mistake. The White Guard didn't have either food nor money, but had arms which they could use.
У них не было денег, зато у них было оружие. Чем они еще могли заниматься?
The first clash occurred near the town of Gochen. After that, the Ataman was imprisoned in Urumqi, and they started extorting money from him. When the Chinese arrested him in 1921, he didn't have any money. Chinese officials told him directly that they would release him if he paid them some money. He didn't do that and spent almost 3 years in prison. I didn't have a lot of valuable things or money on me. I only had Kolchak's money, which had depreciated in value, wrote Annenkov. However, when he was imprisoned in Urumqi, he bequeathed 4 gold bars to one of his Cossacks. According to other sources, he bequeathed 12 bars of gold. A lot is unsaid on this matter, and a lot remains unclear. For example, a Soviet intelligence officer reported that Annenkov had a lot of valuable things, including his property in gold. Probably it contained what Kolchak had sent to the Ataman in order to supply the troops. In 1918 and 1919, Annenkov's troops entered Semipalatinsk and stayed there. While living there, they lived large and indulged in violence and robbery. In those days, these actions were called requisitions. When Annenkov was asked about the payment, referring to the requisitions, he answered, "I requisition, and it isn't my business who'll pay for it." Sometimes historians try to excuse such people like Kolchak, Annenkov, and so on. However, the actions they took sometimes seem entirely incompatible with human conception of life and human attitude towards life. Well, probably he took something from Semipalatinsk Bank, and everything was used to supply the army. Actually, it doesn't seem that Annenkov took a lot of valuable things to China. He was going to move to Canada together with his executive officer Denisov, but did not even find enough money to financially confirm their visa. Maxim Ivlev is confident that Annenkov had nothing except for arms. So you're near the border and going to leave for China, right? It's an absolutely unknown country where nobody waits for you and you don't speak their language. Would you really bury gold if you know that you won't have anything to eat there? However, other researchers think there could be some valuable things. The only reason why he did not give a bribe to Chinese officials was his stubbornness. Anyway, what bribe could he give if the gold was hidden on the other side of the border? It's known about many attempts to get into Soviet country. According to the official archive report of the Joint State Political Directorate, some units under control of certain people broke through and dug out the arms hidden before leaving. Probably because someone managed to dig out the gold, treasures, and even Yermak standard. Alternatively, are all these notorious treasures still kept somewhere? Epilogue. Treasure map. In June 2011, the expedition, consulting the staff captain's map, approached the border with China. We can see a little forest in the distance, but we can't go there because it's in China. In that little forest, there's a valley, and Annenkov's mysterious caches are under the crosses numbered 2 and 3. It's surprising, but little has changed here over a century. Look! There are the crosses numbered 2 and 3. What is there? It's unclear to us. It's in Chinese, and I can't make out anything about it. It seems that Annenkov's mysterious caches will remain just that, mysterious.